Welcome to the Bill Levinson Experience, a motivational podcast relating to the insurance brokerage industry and business in general. And now, here's Bill Levinson.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Bill Levinson Experience podcast. Here we are on September 1st, 2023, right before the Labor Day holiday weekend. And I'm very, very excited about today's episode for a few different reasons. Make sure that you have your notes app out, pen and paper, whatever you like to use is fine. I know we have a big audience on here of some insurance agents, CPAs, financial planners, attorneys, and people from all over the country. So I want to make sure that you walk away with some nuggets, inspiration, motivation, right? New technology if you're an agent, and a new way of selling term life insurance. So all the above. And it's most important that we provide value add for every single person listening. That's the goal for all of us. So I want to introduce our featured guest speaker today, and it's a big deal for us. The reason why we have Mr. Farron Blanc from Banner Life, and now known as Legal in General. And what's so interesting here is Farron brings so much to the table. Number one, he's a younger guy around my age, and he understands the insurance business, the brokerage business. And even more important, in my opinion, he understands technology and the blend and how you can work both sides and kind of come to the middle and have a mesh and literally change the way life insurance is sold in 2023 and into the future. You know, if you're in our business, you know it's kind of like known as the dinosaur industry, right? Things move so slow and technology is in slow motion. And, you know, I remember coming into this business almost 25 years ago. And in fact, Banner Life was one of our primary companies. They were like the original go-to brokerage term product and carrier. So, you know, here we are almost 25 years later, and we're introducing this partnership with Banner, Legal in General, and Insure Me Now Direct to change the way term life insurance is sold. So getting back to Farron, you know, I was introduced to him by our VP, Gino, and I remember him saying to me, and we have over 90 carriers, but we only have a handful of core insurance companies, but you know, he said to me, Bill, you have to meet my boss, and he's in charge of all distribution for the United States, for Legal in General, and he's such a great guy. You'll get along with him. And you know, the bottom line is I hear this story almost every day from most of our 90 carriers, you know, so I'm like, oh, geez, here we go. You know, yeah, let me introduce myself and go into the conference room and, you know, pen and paper. But actually, he was right, and I was blown away, and this is coming from my heart, and I told Farron offline here that I was so impressed with the way he gets it, which most people don't in our industry, unfortunately, but he truly understands both sides of the fence, and that meant so much to me because it's rare to come across that, especially in his position. You know, most people in his position from other carriers, I won't mention names, you know, they're typically in their, you know, 60s, 70s, 80s. They're doing this for 50 years, and, you know, they're so set in their ways, and, you know, they hear about technology like this, and they kind of like look in the other direction, but they tell you what you want to hear. But Farron truly got it. He understood what we were trying to do and what we've accomplished up to this point. So anyway, I was just blown away by hearing his story, and I'm going to give you just a quick 100-foot overview of his bio, and I'm going to toot his horn for a second, and then I'm going to have him take the wheel. But real fast, what I want to talk about is his bio, a little background from Farron, what he shared with me in our meeting, and of course this is on his LinkedIn page where you can find him as well. In fact, before we proceed, I'll give you the full spelling of his name. It's Farron, Farron, and it's Blanc, Blanc. So make sure you look him up, follow him on LinkedIn. If you want to share anything that's the place to find him. So real fast, been in the business for over 15 years, spanning from startups and consulting and investing. Today leads distribution and marketing for the brokerage side at Legal in General. And as you know, especially if you're in our industry, they are the leader in this country for term life insurance. I think even in the world, they might be number 1 or 2. So they are huge. And when it comes to term life, they are clearly the leader in the space. I also want to talk about real fast, he is an active angel investor and advisor focused on the InsurTech space, elder tech, and B2B SaaS. I support and mentor founders who are solving meaningful problems in these domains, leveraging his deep expertise and network. Previously co-founded and sold 2 InsurTech startups, Jerry and Greenhouse, that helped thousands of Americans navigate long-term care, senior care, and access to affordable life insurance. We also have a lot of the same interests with sports, baseball, basketball, Formula One. He speaks 3 languages, English, French, and Indonesian, which is so impressive. I mean, I speak 1 and maybe 1 1/4, I would say, a little bit of Spanish and Portuguese. But anyway, my hat goes off to you, Farron, and I want to officially introduce you to our audience and the Bill Levinson experience. So thank you for joining us.
Wow, no, thank you. I mean, I don't think my head's going to be able to fit through the door after hearing that, Bill. I think it's a long weekend to, come back down to earth. But no, it's great. It's great to be here. I mean, I've been listening to the pod, and as I was saying, tough shoes to fill with some of those previous guests, Austin Rivers and NFL teammates of Tom Brady and stuff like that, and even other industry, execs, and other folks. So love what you're doing with the pod. And then even, what you're doing with Insure Me Now, which is like your vision of empowering agents and building that experience. It's, so I think we're very simpatico there.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And to come across someone like you in your position at a life insurance company that truly gets it, which I said 3 times already, and you had your own startups, you were very successful, right, on both sides, and I just look up to you, and I think it's an amazing accomplishment, and I know you're just getting started, and I feel like so am I. And what's so neat about this, and I'll talk about this for a second, is we are launching InsureMeNowDirect.com, which has been out for almost 10 years now. We are launching Banner's term product on the platform next week, so right after the Labor Day holiday break here. So you will see our emails, obviously call into our office if you want to get set up, but this is industry breaking, okay? We have our podcast launch. You will see us. We're featured in Insurance Newsnet magazine for November. You're going to see Newswire about this through PR Newswire. You're going to hear about this one way or another, and it's a game changer for us because in the past, you have products that are very easy, to sell for an agent, but maybe the premium is inflated or maybe no one has heard of the company. So this is truly the first time ever where we have the most competitive term product and carrier on a direct-to-consumer platform like Insure Me Now Direct. So it's an amazing time for us, and I so appreciate you coming on, taking the time and sharing this with our audience and myself, quite frankly. So I love what we're doing. What I want to do, too, is talk about, we have this revenue accelerator platform we're also launching next week. And if you're an agent out there, the $100 million question is, Bill, I have my website up and running. I have my Insure Me Now Direct up and running, and I'm active with Legal in General, Banner Life, and I want to get going. How do I drive traffic, right? That's the magic question, is how do I drive traffic? And the magic answer is, right, you need to be out there marketing yourself on social media, Facebook ads, and with the new Revenue Accelerator program, this is a turnkey campaign that allows you to market to your existing book of business. We have voice scripts, we have e-blasts, we have mailers, postcards. We even have a basic CRM tool that we can plug this in for you, and it's a way you can drip on everybody in your book, all of your consumers that bought maybe disability, maybe critical illness, long-term care, to say, hey, did you know Banner Life is now on my website? Click here, run a quote, and obviously if they're interested in moving forward, they can apply and hopefully get an instant decision while you were sleeping. Okay, so this is amazing. This is a free platform that, again, will be available by next week, and today is, once again, September 1st, 23. So if you're hearing this after, reach out to our office. We'll get you set up. All right, so Farron, real fast, I'm so impressed with you, like I said a few times already. Just, if you don't mind, if you can share with the audience just a little bit about your background and how you got started in InsurTech and how you wound up where you are today. That would be great.
Yeah, no, definitely. So great to be on. So I started a few subscale businesses. So I had that entrepreneurial bug. My father, who was a first generation, he moved over with literally, from Trinidad to Toronto, Canada, with 2 nickels in his pocket. He was an entrepreneur, like he was a hustler. He was a wedding photographer, but had a day shift working at a homeless men's shelter, as a shift supervisor. And so just seeing that my whole life, him grinding, right? And I think by the time I was 18, I'd been to 100 weddings, just helping out, being the gopher or whatever. Seeing that really kind of instilled that passion for entrepreneurship. So I did a couple subscale, retail and service, like a tutoring business, a bookstore in Canada. And then I thought about, oh, you know what? And a mentor, an advisor just said, hey, you know what? You should only, after you're doing this entrepreneur stuff, maybe it might help to get, a big company stamp on your resume, because that's always like that floor. So I went to work for IBM for a bit, but then, it wasn't for me. It was kind of big, not great at, what I really wanted to do, that passion. And so my girlfriend at the time, she just graduated from computer animation, and we're both Canadian. She went to a conference in LA, and, she went to this really specialized computer animation program, and they're like, oh, we'd love to hire you on Pixar, DreamWorks, etc. Like, we'd love to hire you, but unless you have 8 years experience or a PhD, you can't get a visa. But, Industrial Light and Magic, George Lucas's visual effects company, the creator of Star Wars, their company, they just opened an office in Singapore, and they're like, hey, you know what, if you move to Singapore, you might have a shot. And so she told me this, and I remember it's clear as day because I was working at IBM consulting a client in Winnipeg in November, and it was freezing. And she told me this at night, and I just Googled Singapore, and I just saw palm trees, and I looked into the employment, like the visa situation. It was very, very liberal, and looked into the scene, and I saw, IBM had a big office, Dell, Microsoft, they had big regional offices. And so a month later, we just packed our bags, quit our jobs, bought one-way tickets, and moved to Singapore. Sight unseen, had no job, knew no one. And we ended up spending about 4 or 5 years there. And then that's how I'm, from there, moved there without a job, had to just, grind, started tutoring to GMAT or something like that. And then met someone at a party in insurance. And then that's where I, fell into insurance like so many people, right? I mean, I know you obviously.
Your early 20s, would you say mid-20s?
Yeah, early 20s, and so I know you, obviously, your dad, the huge influence, making it a family affair, whereas for everyone else who doesn't have that family, you kind of just fall into it. So I worked at Aviva doing project management, then product. Aviva is a large British insurer, and then became the chief marketing officer of their Indonesia business, where I kind of picked up Indonesian, and then joined the Boston Consulting Group, a consulting firm specialized in insurance. And then, my mother-in-law, she got, by this time, married that girlfriend, Alex, and we've now been married for a long time, but we got married, but my mother-in-law was sick with pancreatic cancer. And so we were on the other side of the world, so we just decided, okay, we got to get back. So I moved back to Toronto, joined a reinsurer, RGA, Reinsurance Group of America. I think it's, the country's largest life and health reinsurer, based out of St. Louis. So I moved back just to simplify things, to help take care of family. And then at RGA started doing product there, understanding global product trends. And then our CEO at the time, Greg Woodring, who's such a phenomenal visionary, like he basically started RGA, as a subsidiary of General American, got it bought by MetLife, spun it out, was, employee number 6, but then was CEO for 35 of its 50 years, so visionary. He just asked myself and 2 other people to just frankly think of where the next $10 billion of revenue for RGA comes from. And then that kind of was that kick into innovation and InsurTech, where we started investing in InsurTech, analytics, looking at underwriting, new data. And so did that, started a company for RGA called Greenhouse. And then once I got my green card as Canadians, got the bug, and together with a friend, we started an InsurTech focused on senior care. So my father, he had Alzheimer's, and just going through that process, super confusing, super stressful, right? Because you have, all these family dynamics upside down where you're making decisions for your parents as an adult child, and, you're working with my sister, right? And those relationships are strained of brother, sister, even though she's elder, all the dynamics are different, plus the financial grief, right? Of how do you afford this, right? My mom and dad, they did so much as immigrants, but, we weren't wealthy, right, at all. We were solidly middle class. And so trying to figure that out. So together with a friend of mine, we started an InsurTech focused on using data to help families navigate senior care. So focus on the U.S. We collected data on the 50,000 communities in the 50,000 assisted living, skilled nursing communities, whether they're pet friendly, whether they accept veterans, not veterans, but the percentage of veterans, whether they accept Medicaid, the proximity to synagogues or churches or public transit. And so we ended up helping about 5,000 families navigate long-term care. We sold that business 2 years ago. And I was just kind of thinking about what to do next. And I knew Mark Holleger, our CEO, the CEO of Legal & General, or Banner, from my RGA days. He just said, hey, look, we'd love to help you. We'd love to have you, if you're not thinking about anything, we'd love to have you come on and lead Brokerage Distribution. And for me, I love that because Legal & General is doing a lot of really cool things around technology. But then it's doing it to empower agents, right? Empower advisors, the traditional market, and not just make Google or Facebook richer, right? By buying a bunch of ads. And so it's really stuck, and now it's been 2 years, and we've been doing great stuff, and it's amazing, amazing team that I get to lead and I get to work with. I think of it as truly joining the Dodgers, right? It's really amazing people, and we're just focused on term insurance, which is unique. So you're not really having to argue internally, for prioritization of term insurance versus IUL versus, annuities. We're just focused on how do we make term insurance, how do we write it profitably and make it profitable for our producers and our distribution partners to write it.
Wow, very, very interesting. That is a great story. It's amazing because, obviously you don't know Farron until right now, but to hear your background and it's so, to me, it's so impressive because you accomplished all this in such a short time, and you're a younger guy today. So, you usually hear a story like this from someone that's, been in the industry for 30, 40 years, and it's just amazing to me. And my hat goes off to you again. Even I'm learning something new today about your background and how you started. So it's very impressive. Let me ask you, and we have a lot of younger audience on here too, and some people from high school and college, and just from a motivational standpoint, going through all of that, did you mainly rely and depend on your parents, or was there a mentor that really helped you get from, like first base to second, and just, anything that you can recommend from that side?
Yeah, it's a great question. I would say, to be honest, my parents were like the inspiration, but as immigrants, they didn't really, my mom was a nurse, my dad worked as a shift supervisor at a homeless shelter, right? So, they weren't in the corporate or world. Obviously, my dad had, the side hustle, nowadays you call it that as a wedding photographer, but they didn't really have that, as first generation immigrants to Canada, right? And that network. So I think when I think of those big turns, right? Within companies or getting, from an individual contributor to like a manager to leading teams to now leading teams of teams. And then even when I did it myself as an entrepreneur with my co-founder, I think I've always had to try to assemble. I think of it as almost like a small war council, of people where, you hit that relationship, you get some advice, but you need more than one or two, to kind of round it out, chew on some ideas, just give you some perspective, give you some directive, see what you're not seeing. But, each kind of turn has required different people, right? So when I was at Aviva, first it was Bill Lyle. He was phenomenal, ex-MDRT agent. He was at Prudential with Mark Tucker, the UK Prudential that grew that business phenomenally. He was amazing. I learned so much from him, in distribution and just managing process and keeping organized. And then also Alan Griffiths, who was the CEO of Aviva's Australia business, who came back and became the regional CEO. Working under him was phenomenal. And then when I was at BCG, there was, an analytical partner, Jens Lautner, and I'm saying their names, not that anyone would know them, but just because they've meant so much in my life, where you meet these people and they just invest in you, right? And they kind of help you think through stuff, they just spend time, right? They didn't have all the answers. They weren't perfect people, but they help you, and then it's almost that fabric or that mosaic in your quilt, as you grow.
Of course. And you have to be smart enough, to say to yourself, I'm just thinking, generally putting a thought out there, you have to say, okay, I'm going to take in this information from this guy, from this girl, take it all in, and then say, hey, see the sign, make the decision, and move forward. So, half of it is, yes, it could be from a mentor, it could be from a book, it could be from college, whatever. But then you obviously have to make the turn, dive in, and make it happen. So I feel like there's two parts to it. But though, to me, the mentorship, whatever, could be from a parent, a friend, a coach. It's so important. It helped me tremendously. So I was curious for your situation.
Well, and I know, and you're an avid reader, right? You gave me a recommendation, right? Relentless, right? That book. And then I saw Tim Grover also, had a little shout out. But even you read that, and to your point, you read it, and I feel like sometimes a lot of people who aren't avid readers, they just say, oh, I can't use all of this book. But even if you get 1%, some nugget, it's worth it, right? And then you apply it to your time, you think on it, you chew on it, and that's worth it, right? That's that investment in growing, right? To your point, being open and just how do you be coachable, right? To just try to get better, right? And pursue excellence.
Absolutely. You got to be so laser focused on the end goal and even creating that goal to begin with. And it's funny you mentioned Tim Grover, because we actually had him do it was like a 10-minute speech for our expo that we do every year. And I'm a huge fan of him and Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant as well. I mean, one of my favorite all time. You read the book, you hear the story, and actually Tim Grover has 2 books now, Winning and Relentless. But here's what kind of put it all together for me. I didn't even tell you this, Farron, but I was on a trip about 2 weeks ago, and on the flight with me is Michael Jordan's fleet manager, who is in charge, of all his cars and his toys, and he reports to Michael and his mom. And, I won't mention any names, but anyway, the reason why I'm bringing this up is he knows Tim Grover. Obviously, his boss is Michael Jordan, but he told me everything that I heard and read. Not only was it true, and they were all factual stories, but he was telling me stuff that even brought it even more together for me and brought me to another level. So it's just an amazing story, and I feel like we can all learn from that. Obviously, I'm not a basketball player, right? I'm not a professional NFL player, but you can use these things in your everyday life, and it doesn't matter if it's insurance, if you're an athlete, if you're a wedding photographer, right? It doesn't make a difference. I truly want to be the very best in my world and in my space, and I feel like I'm getting close to that point, which is great, and I'm not going to stop. So whatever it is for you, keep your foot on the gas and just stay laser focused, I guess, is my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, I agree. Amen.
Yep. All right, so let's switch gears for a second here. Obviously, you're at the top of the company, Legal in General, for the U.S., and you're in charge of distribution and sales strategies. So if you can share, just for a couple minutes, where are you guys seeing, a lot of the growth from, maybe any strategies that you're seeing, any success stories maybe from an agent or agency? Any advice you can give to our agents? Maybe from the millennial side or whatever.
Yeah, no, great. Yeah, so I think LIMRA, the Life Insurance Market Research Association, they put out, reports, and I think the term market generally, it's grown like 2 or 3%, year over year. For us, year to date, we're up 44%, on paid business. So I think that's a huge testament to our distribution partners. Like we don't have captive agency or Tide or Direct or anything like that. So it's all our BGA or IMO and our direct marketing partners, that have enabled us, powered us to do this, and so that's number one, right? And so for us, specifically, we are just laser focused on, how can we be easier to do business, right? Like how do we invest in technology to make it profitable, right? Because a lot of times people say, look, like $600 term product, I'm not going to make any money, right? Like it's the same amount of work as like, whole life, IUL, whatever. But, we think of it as, hey, if you only have to like have that conversation once, drop a ticket, doesn't impact, Levinson, your case management doesn't impact anything. We have 35% of our book is instant decision, as well as, and it's one journey, so you don't have to pivot the case if it goes from instant decision to accelerated, from accelerated to full underwriting. It's all just one journey. So if someone gets an instant decision, 15 minutes, it's great. If someone gets accelerated in, 2-3 days, it's great. If someone has to go through, we have to order exams or APS, our system decides that using machine learning. And then we'll go through, but it's the same price, right? So whether you get an instant decision or whether we have to order an exam and an APS and it takes, 2 weeks or whatever, 3 weeks, it's that same journey, but we're trying to use that technology to make sure that, A, it's profitable, and then as you mentioned, that it's very, very affordable for consumers, and it's easy on the advisor, right? Because, whether it's a PNC shop or an RIA, those folks don't really want to talk about term, right? And I get it, right? Because it's not that huge. But what you can use is that term as a conversation, right? Like protection as an enabler for whether it's a buy-sell or, estate planning or something else, right? So, or even taking care of spousal coverage, right? So it's that easy product, that door opener. That's what we think about. That's how we're thinking about it. And then for us, where we're trying to continue to do is continue to invest in technology, but then not lose that person, right? Like both on our side, like the service, but we've increased the number of underwriters we're hiring, relationship managers, sales, internal marketing, internal wholesalers, to be able to try to get that message out and empower our distributors, like you guys, to work with your advisors to get out those campaigns in a box, whether it's marketing to women or marketing to millennials, like what's content that you can share to your network to try to just get that message out there because, you look at these stats, I think there's, whether it's Swiss Re or LIMRA, they estimate that the protection gap is 4 times the size of the annual U.S. life insurance industry, right? So it's like no one's having enough coverage, right? Like, so if something bad happens, their kids are going to be, their dependents, their loved ones are going to be in a bad situation, with debt, student debt, mortgages, whatever, assets. And so there's enough out there. So how do we try to have that conversation, right? And in an authentic way. And that's what we're focused on, is using technology to try to personalize that message. And then there's some inside baseball stuff, like we're launching a term-to-term exchange. So it's not a conversion product, but let's say you meet someone at age 30, they buy a 10-year or 20-year product. Within the first couple of years, we're one of the few carriers that have a 35 and a 40-year product. And so you can exchange that without underwriting, without new evidence, for a longer duration product, right? Because people might realize, hey, wait a minute, I might have had a kid later than I thought I was going to, or I got a big promotion and got a mortgage, and I want to increase that duration of coverage. And so we're launching things like that, to try to, again, just make it a bit more flexible for people to personalize their coverage.
That's brilliant. And that's from an external carrier. There's probably a list of approved carriers. Is that how that works?
So right now, it's a great question. Right now, it's just on our product. Okay. And we're doing this, and we think of it as, again, this is more that startup mindset of like, let's test and learn, right? Yeah. So we launched it just in New York this summer. We're going to collect experience. We're going to launch it so New York, our William Penn business. We're going to launch it in Banner very quietly to a few of our key partners. So Levinson being one of them. Gino will probably give you an email, when we're ready to say, hey, look, do you want to try this out? Here's what it is. Full caveats, it's a bit of MVP, like duct tape scenario. We'll try that later this fall on the Banner book, just on our own book. And then we think if there's good response, right, and it works well for our distributors, easy to explain, the process works, you can log on to our websites to see who's eligible, then, we'd look at other carriers as well that, we believe, like the strongly rated carriers where, again, it might make sense for them to consolidate coverage, or exchange to a Banner policy or a William Penn policy.
I love it. That's great. And most carriers don't go to 40 years. So it's great if someone was locked into a 10-year or 15 or 20, and now they want a 40, and they're still under that certain issue age. That it's Banner to Banner, or from an approved carrier to Banner. I love it. I love it. And you know what else is so interesting too? And you think of technology, and I just saw the other day, you guys and the Horizon platform have text messaging. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So we think of it as like, again, how do you try to make it so that, so for the SMS, the pinging to just remind the client, hey, look, like you started the journey, but just complete it, right? Like it's only another 5 more minutes to just complete it, and then you'll be done, right? And so we have text, email reminders. So again, and it's all automated on our side so that, producers aren't having to chase down clients, right? And so they can go back to soliciting or servicing clients, or just really even like answering their questions, right? Like, how much should I have? Who should I put as a beneficiary? As opposed to, nagging them, right? Like the administrative stuff. So we're trying to take that burden off.
Yeah, no, I love that. Love that. You guys are first at a lot of these new ways to do business. You obviously want to be the leader when it comes to term life insurance on all sides, and that's exactly what's happening. And we're happy to be a part of it. And I feel like you take all these things that Farron is talking about, and then now you have this same product on Insure Me Now Direct. It's a win-win. It makes it so simple. Like I'm going to give you a quick story from yesterday. Actually, we had a webinar, and it was with a huge P&C agency. They have 220 plus locations all over the country and growing. And they always wanted to sell life insurance, but they didn't want to get involved with the sale and the questions and the back and forth. And so anyway, we're setting up an Insure Me Now Direct site for each location, and now they're going to market term life insurance to their existing P&C consumers all over the country. And it's turnkey. It literally has zero startup costs for them, and they're going after their existing book. It's a win-win. So it just seems like for anyone out there, health insurance agents, agencies, P&C agents, all across the board, even the CFP that's focused on, the $1 million IUL sale, why not have this running in the background? That's the way I look at it, like on autopilot.
Oh, 100%. Because, you never know what someone has where it's like they might want, something on the side, or they pick up a new property. They're like, oh, you know what? I don't really need that, full cash value, but I do want just to make sure if anything's covered, anything happens, the mortgage is covered, and my estate doesn't have to liquidate, some positions, whether it's, privately held or stocks or whatever. It's so easy, to just see what's out there.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. And here's what's so neat too, and I just learned this a week ago, is even, let's say on our platform, even if it is a larger term case that maybe is over the limit, maybe $3 million, $5 million, $7 million, you can still go through the process and go into underwriting, like Farron was talking about. So it still makes it, that A to Z, 1, 2, 3, it's very, very simple. And then you're notified by email as the agent, pick up the phone and call the client, because now, it's a $23,000 premium case. So obviously you want to jump in and get involved. So I don't know. I'm just very excited about this. Okay, I want to make sure we have about 5 minutes left. I want to try to get some important questions in. And this is just from your perspective, Farron, because, thinking outside the box for a second, you're, I know, very savvy when it comes to, the new tech world and social media marketing and websites and lead capture. So just, if you're talking to a typical third bedroom agent out there, from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, what would be just, a 2-minute pitch to them, like how important it is to have a website or social media running in the background, and, how they need to pivot in this new world?
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I agree. It doesn't have to be daunting, right? You can just use your platforms, whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, or whatever they're calling it now. You don't have to worry about the newfangled TikTok. You don't need to be everywhere, but I think you need to be somewhere, right? Definitely. And then you have to be authentic, right? And I think authentic just means, like really showing where you are, right? Like, Bill, huge sports fan, huge, exotic car, aficionado. Lean into that, right? Because you'll be able to, on the internet, find that tribe, and then people will associate you with, oh yeah, this is Bill, this is the exotic car guy, he knows me, he's part of my tribe. I think that's so crucial, right? Don't try to be everything to everybody. Obviously you want to be politically correct or not offensive, but you want to be authentic to your true self. I think that's so important, because even, we just bought a place here in New York, and we're going through referrals for painting and refinishing and all that stuff. And when my wife and I are SMSing back and forth, because we have kids, young kids, you just need something to point to of like, hey, here's the wallpaper hanger, right? There's their website. Here's their details, right? You need something, to just be able to reference there. Can you go call them and book them? Here are their reviews. Here's their 5-star reviews on Google or whatever it is. So that's so crucial, to have some type of presence. And then just, it doesn't have to be big, doesn't have to be heavy, but just making it authentic, and giving your perspective. It doesn't have to be original content like, what Bill's doing, making podcasts, all that type of stuff, but even just commenting, right, on trends that you're seeing or news articles that are relevant for your community, for your tribe, is valuable, right? Like giving that perspective, because everyone's an expert at something, right? And social media, gives you that ability to highlight that expertise and that thought leadership, which can then generate, prospects and leads.
That's it. That's exactly right. And it's free. At the end of the day, it doesn't cost you a penny. I remember I did one of my first podcasts with Gary Vaynerchuk in New York City. I'm in his office, and he knows nothing about the insurance industry, zero. But he knows how to market. He started with his dad's wine business, and he's like our age too. Next thing you know, he blows up. He's got thousands and thousands of employees all over the world, and he's looking at me right in my eyeballs, and he's saying, Bill, you got to run with this podcast, run with your YouTube channel, get the word out, share these stories live. And little by little, I'm not even in retail. We're a wholesaler, okay? And look what it's done to our business. So you should be doing the same as an agent. What you just said, Farron, is so important. Find your tribe, your niche. It doesn't matter, cigar smokers, if it's cars, if it's sports, if it's your church or temple, be known as the guru, the go-to in that space. And you can start there and then spread out. So anyway, you get
exactly.
the point.
Well, yeah, because you want to be that, that peacock where it's like, hey, you have that brand, I'm going to go to you. Because even, I was talking to someone yesterday, I was just giving them career advice. They were thinking about, trying to get back into the New York City tech scene. And they're like, Farron, you have this world of tech and insurance. And I'm like, yeah, that's what you want to be. You want to be known as that brand of insurance, life insurance and tech, venture-backed tech, to be able to be that first person people call or think about, to be like, hey, I'm thinking about something. Can you help me out? Because when they're saying, can you help me out, that's a problem that you might be able to solve, right? Or at least get some karma, down the road where they might refer you to some interesting business opportunity.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You just never know. You got to be top of mind. That's it. That's the bottom line. You got to be out there. Okay, I'm going to, before I wrap up, I ask every guest speaker this, to go back 20 years. So if Farron, if you could go back 20 years, right, what would you tell the younger version, right, that maybe would have helped you even more as a successful entrepreneur, professional? Is there anything you would have done a little differently? Any advice for the younger audience?
Yeah, great question. I think when I was younger, I was very much a bull in a china shop, trying to get wherever I was going with that sense of urgency. But I think, thinking back, I would definitely want to be less frenetic. That's what I tell myself, invest in people, just invest in people, invest in those relationships, and investing just by spending time and listening, right? And being genuine, right? That's, just be less frenetic, invest more in people. When I went from, and I saw it firsthand, when I went from, leading the venture studio at RGA, Reinsurance People of America, to my own startup, right? And we raised some money, raised a couple $1 million, but I just remember, no one calling, right? No one returning the calls, no one returning those emails, right? And after we sold the business, now everyone returns the phone calls, right? But what I do remember, through that is the people who did return those calls, those emails, right? Who gave that advice. And those are your true friends. They start off as professional acquaintances, and now they're great friends. Adam Erlbacher, he was at Fabric and, was a great friend, mentor through that whole journey. RGA asked Jerry, and now this, and then he sold his company to Western Southern. And that's where it is, you want to have those relationships, rain or shine, just investing in people, and that's what I just, continue to say to myself, the younger me, less being that urgent, bull in a china shop, and, invest more in people and relationships.
Yeah, and relationships. That's so important. You're right. That's a great point. And I'll tell you, you mentioned one word, and you said to be authentic and be yourself. And I remember my earlier years, I was always trying to be, the older, more professional. I would talk deep and change my voice depending if I was talking to someone in Texas or, California, whatever. And when I realized, that just being you is okay, that's when my life changed for the better. So that's a good lesson too that you mentioned. But great points. Okay, any last words before we put a bow on this, Farron?
No. Well, yeah, I mean, I want to thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the work you're doing. It's like, again, you guys are up double digit with us, like, similar to the rest of our business. So we want to thank you for that. Thank you for all the producers, the events, the expo. And then really, I think it's, starting with your dad, like that firm that he built that now you're leading, you guys are co-leading. It's just great to see such good values, like a great family man, where this is our business, right? Like we're doing something out of an act of love, right? It's life insurance, but it is people buy life insurance because they love something, right? They love someone else. And that's evident, at Levinson's and Associates. So thank you for the work you guys are doing.
I appreciate that. And when you love what you do and you do it your own way, right? There's no blueprint for our business, our industry, and you put your little spin on it and it's productive and successful. There's nothing better than that. So, all right, Farron, I want to personally thank you because you are doing an unbelievable job. I also know how your time is so valuable and you've been so generous with us today, and you also took a big chance with us with Insure Me Now Direct, and I just want to publicly say on record, I appreciate you more than words, and I appreciate what Legal in General and Banner did for us as well. We're going to make you proud. Let's all have a great holiday weekend, and definitely make sure you're following Farron on LinkedIn. Follow Levinson as well on LinkedIn. Reach out anytime. We'll get you set up on Insure Me Now Direct with Banner Life Term Products. So let's have a great day and good selling, everyone.
Thank you for joining us for the Bill Levinson Experience. Please feel free to share this podcast with anyone you think would be interested. You may also visit levinsonandassociates.com and all of Bill Levinson's social media pages for more information.